So I'm Zelda, and Zoe and I are liaison librarians. So we are indeed going to talk about it, how we did it our Sway, which is how we've used Sway for our library inductions and our teaching. So hold on. Here we go. So what is Sway? For those of you that don't know, Sway is part of Microsoft Office, so it's something that we've all got access to, and is another presentation tool like PowerPoint, but it allows you to create really easily repurposed presentations and content that can stand alone without a presenter. So PowerPoint is still the best way to show content when there is a presenter, but because Sway is so easy for the viewer to navigate by themselves, it really comes into its own when you want to create self-paced presentations and tutorials. So at the start of this academic year, with all of us still working from home, that was exactly what we were looking for. So we decided to try Sway out for the usual induction and welcome presentations that we would do at the start of the year. What we were looking for is a way that we could still give students the same friendly welcome, even if we couldn't actually go out into the departments as we normally would and speak to them face to face. So for the welcome presentation, I put together an easy to follow template with sections about each of the areas we wanted students to know about. Each liaison librarian was then able to adapt that presentation for their own schools and add in an individual video welcome message and tailor it to include subject-specific information or emphasise particular areas depending on the different needs of those subject areas. We also had a generic non-department specific Sway that would be applicable to pretty much everybody, that was included in the University Welcome app and also on the welcome area of the library website. And within this Sway, we were able to include links out to information that was likely to change. So we didn't need to keep updating the actual Sway itself. Photos, so students could see the library before they were able to actually visit the library, and videos to also make the content interesting and engaging and add value to it. One of the best things about Sway is that you can continue to edit it even after you've shared it with people. And that really took the pressure off us as we were getting update after update as the start of term approached and also once things started. And it helped us to feel really on top of things and not at the mercy of this changing landscape. Students can also revisit the material whenever they wanted because they had the link that they could access and then go through it at their own pace. So this is an example. So this is the table of contents, in actual fact, from our welcome Sway. You can see that we had sections covering all the main areas that we wanted students to know about. They're slightly cut off, but you can see things about the different library facilities, borrowing books. And then we used really nice clear images of the libraries or just linked blocks of colour. What we wanted was something that was really welcoming, really appealing, and would be these students' first view of the library and that they would take away. So Sway gives you this table of contents, which means that the viewer can easily jump from section to section without having to go through the whole thing, as you might have to with a video or indeed with a PowerPoint presentation. They could just use that table of contents to go to the bit that they wanted, and when they wanted to revisit it, they could leap really quickly to it. And it also has inbuilt accessibility features. So once you've produced your Sway, you can run a check and it will prompt you to add in alt text for your images, or suggest if you should be using accessible fonts rather than the ones that you've chosen. Once you've shared the Sway, so for the viewer, the Sway resizes to adjust to different devices. So if somebody's looking at it on a phone or a PC, it will adjust accordingly. And the viewer can also switch on an entirely accessible version compatible with screen readers. So you can be confident that your material is accessible to anybody that is looking at it. If you'd like to see the full welcome Sway, or indeed any of our Sways, just say at the end and we're really happy to share those links with you. We were really pleased with how our welcome Sway was received. We had great feedback from staff and students. For students, they liked the way the content was presented and that they could refer back to it later. And for academic stuff, it was super easy to be able to share that link or embed it within the VLA if they preferred, just do whatever they wanted to do with the link once we'd given it to them. So our generic welcome sway, the one that was applicable to everyone, had over 1,000 views during Welcome Week. And if you add in all of the views that we had for all of our individual school and department sways, we had over 8,000 views. And that includes students returning to the content, revisiting it and looking at it. And it really meant that we were able to reach many more students than we normally would. And we're planning to use Sway for our Welcome Again this year because we were so pleased with the way that it worked. So over to Zoe now, who is going to talk about how we've been using it for our teaching.
Okay, so we started work from home obviously in March 2020, but I was also extremely aware that my job share colleague was retiring in the May of 2020 during lockdown. And because I look after 2 schools and with multiple programmes, and there's a handful of areas within the institute as well, there was something I needed to sort of consider. So in early April, I was doing a bit of Office 365 training, and it introduced me to Sway in a little bit more detail. I'd seen it used before because our libraries, museums update newsletter was produced within Sway. And what with the imminent changes to our approach in our delivering our teaching, and the fact that some of it would be when I wasn't available and actually working, I thought it'd be a great approach to deliver what my schools and institutes needed without me being there. So my initial thoughts, as Zel's covered, it'd be great for induction and an advanced induction that I do for some programs, which includes more coverage of basic searching using the catalogue and also using the library's unified search tool Discover, and also popping a few interactive exercises in there for the students to do. But it did become then more evident, more academics were contacting me to book sessions for the forthcoming year, and I needed to take it to the next level. So in that way, I had to use it for my finding the evidence sessions. So this is the teaching that we do annually for very many programs that we oversee. So the standard PowerPoint, as Zell mentioned before, where you deliver and along with a demonstration of some of the resources that the library offers, we needed to adapt that in a way whereby we could watch it, interact with it and learn from it without me actually being there. So obviously asynchronously. So that's how finding the evidence way came to fruition, really. There've been many ways we've used it, mainly for those cohorts who have their modules on a Wednesday afternoon or a Thursday or a Friday when I don't work. We use it asynchronously. But also we've used it in a flipped classroom approach where the academics still wanted to try and recreate a workshop, something online that, trying to keep it similar nature to what the students are actually being used to in the past. So what we do before, we make them watch the Sway beforehand, including the embedded videos of, the resources, and then have me an overview key points in the live session. And then in their groups they work on the search, so they in effect do a bit of a workshop online, and I lurk in the background answering questions either via the chat or verbally. Zell's shown how easy Sway is to navigate. It's great, and you've got your table of contents there to remind you of anything you need to revisit, and it's not like the standard recorded lecture, but I mean that was why I was so excited to hear what NASA had to say before, because breaking it down into key sort of contents, his particular lectures. But we like the way you can see it, how many times it's been viewed as well. One I put together last October, it was for a year 2 veterinary cohort. So again, it was a finding the evidence, so I had to show them how to use the likes of Scopus, Medline, Cap Direct, etc. It went down really well, and I think a few of the other veterinary academics got wind of this, and they approached me and asked me whether they could share the same link with their PG students. So I obviously said yes, and that particular sway that I created for the vets, it's actually been viewed 4,305 times you know, as of late. And ultimately, I think it's because of, you know, revisits. They're doing lit reviews. They want to see how you use Scopus, how you use Medline, etc. So they revisit. Next slide, please, Elle. Thank you. So here are some examples of the content I included in Sway, and obviously because it's so versatile, you could add an interactive aspect. So even when watching asynchronously. So our lovely know-how colleagues, thank you, Heather. I know she's on today. They actually assisted us by creating like interactive aspects using the software Articulate, and it was a short activity. It was embedded within the Sway. They could use it and instantly be told that they've chosen correctly, and if not, it would actually outline what was the correct term to use. So that was really great and well received. I also did a couple of PowerPoint slides as well, just with a voiceover, which was a reminder of the question that we were using within our examples, and how to break it down. And the video was made using Canvas Studio. And I also generated the captions using it as well. And obviously, you know, we were all on a learning curve at that time. And it was suggested that another method for caption creation was where it actually got most of the subtitles correct. It was uploading the file to MS Stream and using the caption creation within there and creating a VTT file. So although it was a little bit more work, it was less time than it took editing Canvas Studio, because I think Canvas Studio really struggles with my Liverpool accent and some of the words. It's hilarious, basically, but yeah. So it was very, you know, we were all, you know, on a learning process, so it was great. So the example that I've used today, we also wanted to introduce, obviously it was a master's one, and so, you know, you take a chance knowing whether a master's student actually is aware of reference management software and has ever used it in their undergraduate degree. So if they join a master's program, they might well not be aware of what obviously reference management software EndNote that the library support is. So because it was asynchronous, we wanted to include as much information as possible and much guidance as possible. So all the links were provided to the university library's referencing pages, and academic liaison were working together closely as a team and sharing material. And so my lovely colleague Louise had created an absolutely brilliant what is EndNote video, which really was super informative and a great insight into the product. And so what we did was I embedded it into the Sway, so the students could be fully aware of what EndNote was, and then obviously links out to the know-how webinar sessions that they hosted as well. So back over to Zell on why we recommend using Sway.
Okay, so yes, just to summarise really why we recommend using Sway. The fact that there's no special software that's needed, it's accessible, it adapts to different devices, and it offers interactivity to students. So it offers something a little bit more than just a passive reading of a presentation. It is also really easy to use, easy to copy, easy to share. Between us as liaison librarians, we're able to reuse each other's work and get it out to as many different students as possible. So really, we would really recommend giving it a go. I'm just going to move on to the next slide, which has actually got two links to our the two sways that we've spoken about today, if people want to have a look at those, although I don't know how useful that is having the link in the presentation. It's probably better having it in a chat, isn't it?
You can copy and paste it into the chat, Zelda.
Yeah, I should do
links.
that. Yeah. Let me try and do that. I'll try and unshare. I've got myself lost in all the screens, but we have finished now. I've just did that unshare?
Yes.
Yes, it did. Sorry, I've just got very confused.
That was great. That was really great, guys. Thanks. Does anybody have any questions for Zelda or Zoe? So I've got a couple, actually. So, do you? Oh, I'll let Nasser go first. Nasser, please.
Hi, thank you. It was a great presentation, and I have used Sway briefly, and it's a great tool and very good for presentation. But I'm not sure that it can replace PowerPoints, because especially for teaching in our area, because we use graphs or changing the graphs, because what I found that the Sway is not very flexible, is a little bit limited. You can use a style, but when you choose the style, all fonts or the places that the fonts go, then size of fonts are you don't have any flexibility. You cannot change them. You have just some options to few types of fonts or increase the size of fonts. Am I right?
Yeah. I would agree with you on that. I would agree that if you want to do something really in depth and it's very specific in a particular style, you're going to be frustrated by Sway. Because it does only have those limited styles. I think because it wants to ensure the accessibility, so it is forcing you to use very specific types of fonts. One of the things that is quite good for, though, is gathering a lot of information together. So if you've got more in-depth, complicated PowerPoints and you've got several of them, you could put embedded within or links to all of them, so that the students could then find all of them in one place.
So you mean that in Sway you can open PowerPoint?
Yeah,
okay.
You can embed. So what you can do is you can embed the PowerPoint, or you can have so they can see the PowerPoint in its true form, but within a kind of format of a Sway. So you use the Sway to navigate it. But yeah, I would agree with you, and particularly I found using Sway when I was using Sway to do a presentation. I mean, you'll see that we did our presentation with PowerPoint because we were talking. Because Sway, when you're talking, it's very, very hard because it starts running away and you find yourself in the wrong place and things like that. But it's much better when the person is going through it by themselves.
Thank you.
I think with Sway, I know you can change the layout so that it can pretend to be a PowerPoint slide deck, and it's not as sort of intuitive to use as a PowerPoint to be like, but it's still sort of, so you can have the horizontal scroller, the vertical scroller, and you can do it on a slide by slide. But I don't know why anybody would want to, really, because you've got PowerPoint, as you say. But have you used it? Have you experimented embedding it into Canvas at all? Because you can embed Sway into Canvas, and that's
It looks really nice. It looks really nice within it. The fact that you can have it sitting within the area. I don't know what you call different areas within Canvas. Is it a module or a section?
A page.
Within the page, it just sits there. I think it looks very nice.
Then what also NASA, what Zelda and Zoe were talking about was you can use what Sway's really great for. For example, you could use it for to present a gallery of videos, and then underneath the videos, you could sort of embed a Microsoft form for like some sort of knowledge check, So there is a lot to it. I suppose it's just kind of trying to map it to what you want to use it for, I suppose.
Yeah, I think it's just experimenting, isn't it? It can be a bit overwhelming when you first look at it, I think. And I think the way they encourage you perhaps to import a PowerPoint into Sway, I don't think that's a very good way of going about it, because they tend to look a bit skew-if and not that great. But if you come at it just experimenting and seeing what can fit in it, found it quite pleasing.
I think it'll really take off. It's great that you guys have presented it here, because I think it's got real potential, I think, for a lot of users across the institution. Laura's just saying she's been looking at your welcome Sway, and it's fantastic.
Thank you.
I think going forward as well, obviously, circumstances coming
Mhm.
into the next academic year, again, Sway is going to come into its own because, with a lot of, hybrid teaching, etc.,
Mhm.
we are
Yeah.
going to be able to utilize it. And we're still in the process of trying to recruit my other half. So,
Yeah.
as such, there will be times where this will again be used asynchronously when I'm not actually working.
Sure.